If you scored from 0 to 31, your kitchen environment could also use some improvements, but we can also talk about that, talk to your coach and work out where you may have scored badly on that one.
Or take some tips from today.
Take some tips from today, exactly. So if you scored from -31 to -1, then congrats, you're doing pretty well in the kitchen department. There might just be a couple of tweaks you could improve on. And then top score is our negative score. So -32 to -63, it means you've got a really great kitchen environment. So you guys are doing really well, smashing it. We'll see some big improvements with nutrition.
And that's
the Endeavour Challenge.
And that's it. That's just one thing. So you got your pantry sorted, but how do you then cook? So that's the purpose of today, which is what we're here trying to do. So welcome, guys. This is our, obviously, it's been brought back. Last challenge, we didn't do the cooking demo. Everyone pretty much cried. I did too, because I love doing this sort of stuff. And now I've got my amazing assistant, Sonny, to help me out with everything in terms of educating you guys, but also looking at how is it that you take those pantry staples, those wonderful things you've stored in your kitchen, and then implement that into really good, tasty, healthy food that's quick and easy as well. So yes, we're going to do a whole heap of different stuff, and it's going to be pretty practical and hands-on for this, the most part anyway. So, cool.
I will hand out you guys just a blank piece of paper where you can write any tips that you want to take note of. On the other side there we do have some actual tips that we've written for you guys. So I'll hand this down to Anna, okay, and just pass those around. If you need a pen, the boys at the back there can supply you with a pen or a pencil if you need one.
If you want to take some notes. Cool.
All right, let's get started.
Right, so
we
yeah.
have our lovely menu on the side here. You get to see exactly what we're cooking for you today.
And the whole idea is that we want to give you guys what a whole day looks like. So what you should be eating entirely through the whole day. So hopefully within this time frame, we can prep every single meal to make you guys realize that it's really quick and easy to do these sorts of things as well, and for you guys to implement at home. So we're going to start with breakfast, of course, for some of you guys that have trained. So we're going to do, first up is our piled green eggs. So basically I've got some eggs here, and I just wanted to tell you, ignore the packet because they're just in this packet. But guys, these are what we call free-range eggs. They're literally from the chook's bum. I'm very fortunate to have access to, some eggs that are technically what we classify as free range and organic, depending on what they're fed as well. So it does make a difference. When we're talking about things like omega-3, vitamin D, the really great stuff that you get from eggs, it makes a difference between a cage egg and a farm fresh, or a free range and an organic egg. So please, when I say free range eggs, that's the bare minimum. I want you guys to be getting those sorts of eggs because of the nutrient content. So there's a massive difference there. So as you can see, sometimes we call this the elusive little blue egg. So sometimes these are little special eggs, and you don't get this unless you're getting free range chooks, right? So we're going to do eggs for breakfast. So I want to volunteer. Anyone? Awesome. Well, so using your hand, Tara, hi. Hi. Using your hand, Tara, because how do we measure protein? So this is our protein source, right? Awesome. Can you pick how many proteins you need out of this? For you, for your size.
For me.
So what's your, if you were to make a breakfast this morning,
yeah,
and you got eggs, how many eggs would you choose?
2.
Cool. Want to pop those in your hand? Does it look like the palm of your hand?
Oh, I'd actually only get 1.
That's a pretty big egg though,
That's
right?
a huge egg.
Maybe too small,
yeah.
Right? So there you go. So this is another practical tip, guys. The size of the protein choices that you're going for are all based on your hand portion, which is very different from most of other people. Cool. You're going to choose that one? Yep. Awesome. Can we get another volunteer? We'll do 2 breakfasts. You get to eat it, by the way. So.
Oh, yay.
Come on, Cam. Right, let's go. Pick your protein. We all know eggs are...
How many I normally have? Or how...
No, the size of it. Well, for males, we get 2 palms, remember? Right? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
But I do. Yeah, that's...
Good. All right. Awesome. Crack them in the bowl, guys. Sonny's going to get a pan cranking.
I have one.
Excellent. Thank you. You can go sit down. Thank you very much.
Sorry, you can come and scramble the eggs. No, I'm just kidding. I'll do it.
Awesome. So we've got some really good ideas about how much protein we're getting and where that protein source is coming from. Eggs are an amazing protein source. We talk about them being really great for post-training or post-recovery. What we find in the egg white is a complete amino acid profile, but what we find in the yolk is also vitamin D and good cholesterol. So all these factors come into play when we're talking about recovery food. So eggs are one of the best things that you can have post-training. We're going to pair it with a little cool product that's just been released on the market. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this. So this is a Swedish style of milk, and it's really unique in terms of its properties. It looks a little bit and very similar to buttermilk. So if you've ever used buttermilk before, pass it around, smell it, have a look, have a feel for this sort of texture. It's called film yolk, okay? Not that I can speak Swedish. I just got that from Woolies. So you can find it, it's Rokeby Farms is the brand, and what it's got as a difference and a point of difference, it uses fresh milk from Gippsland, so we know it's from our own home turf, and then it adds 15 live cultures and bacteria, and then of course on top of that 50 plus CFUs in terms of good gut bacteria. So there's this really sort of big trend we're seeing nowadays with gut health and the gut microbiome and how that relates to not only performance but body composition, immunity, mood, depression, you know, so all these factors we actually have to remember that I'm not just choosing food just because they taste good, I'm actually really purposely choosing certain ingredients and certain things in order to enhance my health, okay? And then stemming from that, once you've got your health, then you can look at body composition change and also performance. So it all has to come down to this first. So yeah, so we're adding that into our eggs as a point of difference, and I'm also going to be adding olive oil. So olive oil is kind of a bit of my ingredient in all my dishes today, and for a few different reasons. So what I'm going to do is, you know, give you guys a look at the color of this. It's very important that you look at the color of your oils. So we can pass that one around. Absolutely, and so this is Cobram Estate is particularly a great brand as well because it's Aussie turf, you know, so I love everything that's on home ground because we do beautiful produce, so we need to be supporting our local farmers. So basically when we looked at olive oil, it just trumps every single oil that's out there on multiple levels, and because I don't want to discredit it at all, I'm going to actually read to you exactly what the benefits are. So I mean, a lot of people are proponents of coconut oil. I think it's one of those things that from a health trend it's become very popular. We think it's healthier. Rosemary Stanton, who is like the godmother of nutrition, has just recently written a really cool myth-busting facts about coconut oil in The Conversation. So if you guys ever wanted to have a chat or have a look on that sort of stuff, that's some really good points of difference, because basically all these proponents that we're claiming in terms of coconut oil as a health benefit actually aren't true, and they don't stack up against the research and the science. So what we're looking at here is olive oil and the health benefits to this. So it has a heart component. So in terms of heart disease, looking at that sort of disease or chronic disease incidence, it will lower the incidence of that by protecting it from damage, so free radical damage. The reason why, if you have a look at the color of that olive oil, it's got a kind of a green tinge to it. Okay, so what you got there is your antioxidants, you got your polyphenols. And so these are the properties that when we're talking about foods and things that protect against free radical damage, you find in olive oil. Okay, it trumps pretty much every single oil if we're looking at antioxidant content. So the amount that it's filled is the amount of antioxidant content that you'll get out of an olive oil compared to a whole stack of different oils. And I'll pass this around for you guys to have a bit more of a look at. The main reason that I want to use it from a sport perspective and a performance perspective is it's anti-inflammatory. So when we think about what we do in terms of the gym and all that sort of stuff, you know, we're creating a bit of, you know, free radical damage, oxidative damage, and so we want to be replacing these sorts of things with the foods that we eat. So this has been shown to have a property that's unique and very, very unique to olive oil in itself and no other oils, and that's oleocanthal. And so what that is it works on the same operating principles as where ibuprofen would work. Okay, pretty cool stuff. So instead of taking a drug, you've got an anti-inflammatory effect by just having a property that's found in extra virgin olive oil, and extra virgin does make a difference. So the first cold press, so basically Cobram, within 6 hours of picking their olives, will press them. Okay, and you need that process to happen, because if you don't do it and if you refine it, and there's a comparison here between an extra light and a pure olive oil in terms of the antioxidant contents, far less than a cold press or first cold press. So please be mindful when you're choosing these sorts of things in the supermarket that they do make a difference from an antioxidant, from an anti-inflammatory point of view. Okay, the other myth that I think a lot of people go with is that we choose other oils because of a higher smoke point. So this is really interesting, because who knows what the smoke point of this oil is? and that would be what we would assume, right? Because we've heard it somewhere along the lines, or it's just that olive oil hasn't really stated what their smoke point and their temperature is. So smoke point is one thing, but obviously how oxidative it is another factor. So we don't want it to oxidate too quickly. You get that with a really good first press cold olive oil. But in terms of a smoke point, it goes up to about 215 degrees. So that's higher than you'd probably roast in terms of ovens. Maybe not Sal, because we had this discussion. But in terms of pan cooking, your pan frying will only go up to 100, 120 degrees. Okay, so it's not actually, in terms of a smoke point, it has a super high smoke point. Alex, got a question.
If you're cooking and it does start, like it's smoking,
Yeah.
is that like, because I've heard that if it just does start smoking, chuck the oil out and then put some new oil on. Is that?
I wouldn't waste good olive oil. I'd just turn the pan down.
What if your oil?
Well, like, let's say, for example, you got it on the pan,
Yeah.
and you've forgotten about it for a minute, and it's like, it's
Smoking. Yeah, I mean, you can reduce that. I would say it's probably not over 200 degrees at that point, or it kind of might be, but it's only for a certain amount of time. So reduce the heat, just make sure the pan's not overheated, obviously to start with, but I wouldn't throw it out, I'd just turn the pan down. So it's still, yeah, you know, and for a lot of us, we always said, oh, use olive oil cold on your dressings and that sort of thing, but don't heat or don't cook with it. Much bigger myth. So we're trying to myth bust at this point in time as well. And so when we're looking at coconut oil in comparison, I think its smoke point's about 198, so it's actually less than olive oil. So you can cook with it, you can eat it cold, you can put on everything, do whatever you want to do with it. It's amazing and wonderful in terms of health benefits. So if you guys want to have a look at that, you can pass that one around. And I don't work for Cobram Estate, FYI. I think that comes down to like the taste. So there's like a difference between robust or a little bit. Yeah, no. It's just about picking it at the right time and pressing it within a certain amount of time so it doesn't oxidize and that sort of thing too. Cool. All right. Toast. Yes. All right. So Sonia's got a beautiful representation of the protein amounts. So we're gonna build a meal here, guys. So how would you build a meal based on it being maybe just an everyday meal? So if I talk about the everyday meal that we want to try and achieve, if my two volunteers can come back up again. Thank you very much. We've got protein on our plate. What else do we need? Carbs. Awesome. Come around and try and choose some carbohydrates that you think would be the better option in terms of bread. So we've got some lovely toast here, ready to toast. What would be your best choice?
My favourite?
Maybe like list them.
I'd go this one.
Yeah, that's one.
All right. Cool. How much are you having?
I'd only have a piece.
One piece? Yep. Is it the shape of your palm? So remember that whole hand portion size? Yep. So grab it. Go for it. Awesome. Put it in the toaster.
Essentially, I'd probably cook the asparagus first, you know, in the oil, and then whatever oil's left over.
You can have some. Do you want some more?
But I forgot.
You can always add it. Cool. Okay. So we've got a male portion, obviously choosing 2 slices, and a female portion, the 1 slice. Okay, using our hands once again. So really interesting, and I'll get this toast cranking because you guys are obviously hungry. You picked the right one, guys. Why did you choose that bread?
Because I like it.
You like it? So you've had it before?
Yeah.
You like the taste?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other reasoning besides taste?
All the grains and everything as well.
Awesome. So I've got a couple of different breads, and I call this my bread hierarchy. So basically I wanted to give you guys an example of what a nutritious bread is. So everyone thinks that bread's bad, all bread is bad, it makes us fat, all the rest of it. And in reality, we have to actually really determine, well, which bread are we actually talking about, because there are some worse than others. So what I've got here is 4 different varieties. So the first one, we've got a 4-seed farmhouse loaf, okay? And so you can tell the difference between here and then here. So this is another grain type of style of bread, but this is a mixed grain bread, okay? So I'm getting it from the same shop, probably right side by side each other. And then I've got a farmhouse half loaf. Okay, so they've all used the word farmhouse, all right, which means, okay, that's actually just based on the shape. It just domes a little bit at the top, got nothing else to do nutritionally with anything else. And so the difference between here and here, obviously you can see a colour difference, okay? So they're using a different flour between here and here. So this is, you know, a reasonably good choice. If I'm thinking about choices out there at the moment, this would be a top choice. We'll talk about that in a second. But second best to that would be this one. So it's got your grains. You can visually see those whole grains in there. And it's also based on a whole wheat flour. So you've got 2 points of difference in terms of fibre content. You go to the next one and it's still got your grains, which is okay. So that's, you know, pretty good. Tick that box. But it looks pretty white. And that's because it's based on a white wheat flour, so it's a processed refined flour. Okay, so they've just added back those little extra bits of seeds. And then of course we've got your standard white, which is typical of most common households. If I talk to any parent, they say their kids will only eat that. Well, my kids have never seen that before. You know, so it's what they're exposed to. If you get them used to something and just continue with it, they've got no other choice. You are the person that's providing food. That is your option until they leave home and make their own decisions about that. Do something healthy for your kids. So the next point of difference is looking at this. And to be honest, like when I'm looking at that, I'm going, well, that's pretty white, isn't it? Okay, so they've used a flour, but in doing so, it's the process. So this is actually a whole soybean, flaxseed, and toasted sesame loaf. And it's also a sourdough. Okay, so anything that you see in terms of an artisan bakery or artisan sourdough, it's really handy that you got these on the labels, which is why I chose them to give to you guys, not just rock up at a bakery. The process by which that happens is a natural process, and of course then it means it doesn't have any yeast in it. So some people react to yeast, it causes maybe a little bit of high bacteria, those sorts of things. So this is a really, really good choice, even though it's based on a white flour. What they've also done is added some extra whole things in there. So you can visually see, if you want to pass this one around, visually see those whole beans. Those whole soybeans is what we're talking about, which is what tempeh is based on, okay? So it's a higher protein bread as a result of putting those beans in there. The other thing that they use is flaxseed. Now flaxseed, if we have a look at that sort of thing, is really important in terms of getting a plant-based source of omega-3. Often our diets are really high in omega-6, but in terms of omega-3, we don't get a lot of that throughout our diet. So when we're looking at flaxseed and whole flaxseed, it's a really good source of a plant-based form of omega-3. So winner. So you're lucky you guys did that. No, but I think we've taught you well. So far, so good. So like I said, there's a hierarchy of breads, probably the worst, next best, then the next best after that, and of course this is top level. And if you didn't want to remember any of what I just said, do the squish test. Can't squish it. Nutrient dense. Doesn't have to be fancy. So that's pretty much, in terms of bread hierarchy, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a difference. So when you're choosing these things in the supermarket, you've got this in the back of your mind rather than just me bashing it. Cool, all right, so I don't have any butter. So what I'm gonna do instead is use a bit of spray olive oil. Just as good as butter, but healthier when we're looking at heart disease, heart risk, and the difference between switching something like a saturated fat for an unsaturated fat, which is what you get in your olive oil. Really easy. Okay, you could also rub it with a bit of garlic if you want to get super fancy, but I'm all about being quick and easy. So are you hungry, guys? I think let's eat. Right, got our two volunteers back up again. So what are we missing in our plate now? Because this will obviously be a post-training meal now that we've added carbohydrate. So it's not an everyday meal, it's a post-training meal. What else do you need in terms of your vegetables?
Some fats.
Yeah, and fats, good. Okay, so if you guys want, maybe, oh, you can stay here, come around here. So we've got some beautiful things to pair with our toast. What would you do to build your meal with that? Like, what would you like to put on there?
Avocado.
Go for it. How much avocado are we putting?
Not enough. A really small.
Right? That's it. I tried to see how I strategically tried to cut them in thumb-sized pieces. Thank you very much. Attention to detail. Cool. So we've got some fats in there, which is the size of your thumb, remember? Girls are one size, one thumb, boys are 2 thumbs. Yeah, that's a small piece. That's right.
My thumb go all the way down here.
X-rays. So it's like,
And the fats and the eggs as well. Like, what would you do?
I would still consider your egg as your protein, so I wouldn't consider that as your fats. I would always add it on top of. So yeah,
And even the cooking fat as well?
Yeah, look, if you lathered it in, but we're not talking about lathering. So when we look at the benefits of that ibuprofen, it's actually getting about 2 to 3 tablespoons a day is what you'd need to have that effect. And like I said, the effect of this is different in terms of your body processes and things like that. So I wouldn't be so concerned. When I'm talking about saturated fat, if I'm talking about butter, yes, the thickness of your butter would actually count towards your fat intake. Totally fine to have it. It's just that as a replacement, this sort of stuff is going to give you more health properties from a longevity point of view. So yeah, if it's minimal, don't worry about it too much, still add in. Cool, and then veggies. So how much veggies are we adding into this? This is the thing we miss out in breakfast a lot of times, right? We go, well, how do we get our veggies at breakfast?
Yeah, I would only ever have that.
Right.
I don't know anymore.
Put a
if I was being
handful of
honest.
spinach.
Right, go for it. Spinach. But there's some fresh basil from my garden, by the way, guys, FYI.
Is that basil?
Yep, that's
That's
basil
spinach.
here. You might not want to
Hang on.
overdo that one.
Okay,
So
yeah.
smell test, good.
I had to smell it.
Good.
I don't mind basil.
Spinach here as well if you want.
Beautiful, spinach is in it. Yeah, there's that. They're just baby. So awesome, really good, really handy, guys. This is what I picked up at the supermarket. I wanted to show you. So it's just a leafy mix, mild, soft texture, greens and red leaves. And really handy, veg a day, 1 cup equals 1 serve of veggies. So they're putting little tips on packets now. What did we use as our measure point though in the meal plans? What was our measure reference? Fists, right? Yeah. Is that a fist? Is that a fistful of veggies? I think we're a bit light, Tara. Add a bit more in there.
That's like a lot of food.
We've got tomato. This is what we're talking about. Good food. Tomatoes, asparagus. Asparagus, wonderful prebiotic. When we're talking about the things that feed the gut microbiome, asparagus is an absolutely wonderful form of prebiotic. It's also a natural diuretic. So if you tend to feel like you're holding a bit of fluid, asparagus is a great way to get rid of that. Wonderfully nutritious. Use your fist, yeah. A bit of tomatoes. Are we going with tomatoes or anything like that?
I'm not a big tomato fan.
No, all right. You don't have to be. That's cool.
I'll give it, I'll have a little one.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there any of this that would change?
Take the carb out. Oh no, absolutely not. No. So it's just your body's dependency on when it's going to be more susceptible to using insulin. So that would be post-training, which is why we've recommended the post-training meal to have carbohydrate as opposed to the everyday meal. And how easy is it with this sort of meal? Take your carb out, double your fat intake. Super easy, you know. And so this is our little. You have to try this. You have to try it. So, I'm sorry, we're talking about guts and probiotics and how important this is. So we picked this sauerkraut up at the supermarket, and it's really easy, really accessible. Adding little bits of pieces like this enhances the flavour of your dish. So it makes things taste a little bit different. It adds a different element, but it's also great in terms of your probiotics. So the things that we're talking about, the gut health, the good bacteria, sauerkraut or any sort of fermentable vegetables is what's going to do it for you as well. So I'm going to... Yep. Always at supermarket. Do you like chili?
A little bit.
It's a bit spicy. So yeah.
Sauerkraut's no good if the ingredients have vinegar in it. It's got to be
Yes, and it's
vegetable.
exactly. And the and the process of which you do it. Yes, the longer you leave it, the more fermentation happens. Sometimes you can get a starter culture. So we. Yeah, me too. So. Don't have it with vinegar. No, which is where a lot of people get like pickles from. Like they go, oh yeah, it's probiotic. It's actually not. Yeah, it's because it's got the vinegar in it. That doesn't have it. That's just live, raw. Yeah. So yeah, good point. Good point. Right. And it'll enhance your dish as well. Like put it, exactly. Like put it over your eggs. Just see how it goes. Cool. Are we happy with our breakfast dish? How'd these guys go? What do you reckon? So when we're talking about plates, I want you guys to get a visual as well. So we've picked what I would call a camping plate. So in terms of size, when we visually look at something, we go, wow, that's a lot of food if it's on a smaller plate. Okay, so just depending on what size plates you have at home, I'd really be thinking about, okay, can I eat on a smaller plate? Because from a satiety and an appetite point of view, it's actually going to enhance your experience a little bit more. Cool. So how would I make this an everyday meal? So I've got obviously carbohydrates in there. If I wasn't training in the morning and I just wanted that for breakfast, how would I make that into an everyday meal? Take the bread away, double the fats. So if I'm going to do that, you guys can still have your bread, so I won't take it away. But for you guys, just as an example, when you double your fats, okay, it's easy enough to have whatever you've got on hand at the moment, but the more variety you have within your diet, the better access you have to different vitamins and minerals. I'm going to sprinkle, sorry guys, your guts will love me for it. I'm going to sprinkle over some hemp seed. And I want you guys to have a look at hemp seed if you haven't looked at it before. Yeah, thanks, Sonny. So basically what we've got, and we sell it here, obviously, this is a little gem. It's a little powerhouse. It wasn't actually available for human consumption in Australia and New Zealand up until recently. So now they've sort of come to the fact that, okay, yes, it is really nutritious. So as a whole seed, it's a really good fat. So I'll say it's a fat in terms of a food group. I'll say it belongs in that food group. But what you've got in this little guy is GLA, which is another really good fat in terms of looking at anti-inflammation and cholesterol and those sorts of things. But it also contains, as a plant-based source, your entire 9 essential amino acids. So out of every protein food, what we're looking for in terms of protein, we've got 20 amino acids our body needs to get in from an exogenous source, so from food intake, 9 of which are essential we have to get from our diet. This little guy has all 9. Okay, compared to any other plant-based protein of any description, you're always going to fall short with plant-based proteins compared to an animal-based protein. So you've got a seed version that has 9 essential amino acids in it. It does come into your fats content, but you're also getting some really cool effects in terms of extra protein, extra amino acids when you're choosing something like this as compared to something else. Okay, and it's good. Taste it. I would get you guys to grab a little bit, pop a little bit in your mouth. Like, it's really beautiful. It's a mild taste. It's got a little bit of a nutty flavour and texture, but it blends really well with everything. Jace put a lot of it in the smoothies already. So, yeah, exactly. You can toast it. You can do whatever you want with it. But I would definitely, in terms of super seed, that one's a winner. So, guys, you can go and eat your breakfast now. Oh yeah, pass it around. We've got some plates and stuff like that. You can share. Sharing's caring. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So prebiotics are what your probiotics feed on. So your probiotics are the bacteria. Sorry, hemp seed, sauerkraut. Yes, it's actually a probiotic because it has the cultures in there already. Same with the milk that we had, probiotics. So you're actually taking in prebiotic. Yep. Yes, exactly the same. Slow. Do it slowly. Too much all at once. A little bit. Sometimes, maybe go to a sauerkraut. I find the same. Like, I don't really like kimchi because it's quite big. Like, they're usually Asian vegetables, cabbages and things like that. Yeah, well, they need the salt to help ferment everything as well. Yeah, so I would either, if it doesn't agree with you, maybe what else are you changing? Like, so if you've got lots of legumes and lots of other things in there that are creating like lots of gas, I'd probably just hone it back a little bit. And then, like I said, the sauerkraut, guys, I just want to just quickly say sauerkraut pairs really nicely with any meat-based food or any high-fat foods because it cuts through, it helps to cut through the fat. So if you think about, I've got some Polish ancestry, so a lot of Polish people will have their big sausages and Germans for that matter as well, so your bratwurst, but they always pair it with sauerkraut. And so, you know, we've been doing these sorts of stuff for years in terms of food and traditions and those sorts of things. We're only now tipping the surface on how beneficial it is from an immunity point of view, from a health point of view, and all those sorts of things as well. So it always goes, sauerkraut, kimchi, always goes really nicely with a high fat or a higher fat content or an animal-based protein to help break that protein down. Kel?
You said before, I was going to discuss what it is about non-training days.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
For someone like myself, I have to be careful of the fat intake
Yeah.
that I have.
Yep.
My body works better with more carbs.
Yep.
And that's where I struggle with breakfast on non-training days.
Yeah.
Because on training days, I will probably have eggs for breakfast. On
Yep.
non-training days, I'm more inclined to have like oats and yogurts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that's where I'm falling short. Am I having too much carb, not enough carb,
So,
not enough fat? Like,
yeah.
on non-training days, that's where I don't really know where I should be.
Yep. So that was basically geared towards fundamentals. Our lunch, we're going to talk about the different types. So I think if you are choosing a different somatotype and you're on that somatotype, you know you work best on that, you would just follow that, which then has carbohydrate in every meal. Yeah. So go with what you feel that works best for your body. That's really, it's intuitive, but it's also from a performance perspective what you like to eat. So if you like to eat something, you're more likely to keep it up. It's about sustainability, right, over time? Yeah, cool.
Hey. How I train like every morning. How would you make that into a meal from training, going home, getting ready for work, going to work? How would you kind of
Do it the night before?
Yeah, right.
night before, or microwave?
Give it the veggies.
Micro, yeah, we did it on the pan because I think it would taste a little bit better, but whack it in the microwave. It takes, my eggs take a minute in the microwave, and you can throw your spinach in there as well. You know, your kimchi you can pop from the fridge. Yeah, so really quick and easy. It doesn't have to take that long.
What would you suggest, instead of bread?
Well, what would you guys suggest? What's another carbohydrate? What's another carbohydrate that you could use as a post-training meal that goes with that? Yep, something quick and easy. Maybe
Fruit. Piece of fruit.
Yep. So something that goes with that meal, like in terms of pairing and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you're pressed for time, boil eggs the night before, grab some eggs, have some fruit, grab some veggie sticks. You know, like that sort of thing you could definitely do. Yeah, you can, options are endless, and that's where your pantry list is really important to go back to and go, well, what carbohydrates do I have? If I don't have this type of bread, that's okay, I've ran out, that sort of thing. I can grab a piece of fruit. So yeah, setting your pantry up in order to be able to do that and switch through your options. Yep.
In lieu of bread.
Yep.
What about mountain bread?
Yeah, awesome, great. And I'd maybe have 2 slices for equivalent to 1 piece of bread. Yeah, depending on your energy needs and stuff like that. But yeah, because it's really thin. Yeah, awesome, great option. Roll it together. I'd line them up and roll them together. Yeah. Cool. Should we move on? Oh, Alex.
Does it change anything with the nutrition in the microwave? Does it kill it?
It probably kills the bad stuff. So I gave you guys chooks that eggs from chooks that were pretty free range. So I would always cook eggs. I'd never have eggs raw in that sense. Nutritive wise, no. In fact, it's probably better for you to cook eggs as opposed to eating them raw. Yep. Cool. We're happy with breakfast. Can we move on to lunch? Take it away, Sonny.
Okay. Who eats kale? Yeah, kale. So there's a bit of a stigma around kale. Can you eat this bit here? Do we know? Can we eat the stem?
How do we prepare it?
Yeah, no, generally we don't use the stem. There is a reason for this, and we'll go into that while I'm chopping up. But basically, when you are preparing your kale, just take the leafy bits off the stem, okay? So we're making a massive kale Caesar salad today. So that bit can go in the bin, feed it to your chooks if you've got chooks. And with our kale today, we're just going to dice it up nice and fine.
You guys will probably get a waft of garlic really, really soon.
Okay, so this is just one big bunch of kale in here. This probably makes maybe 4 servings of this salad. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our fat, okay? And by fat, I've got some olive oil lemon infused, and I'm also going to add some real lemon. So we're going to massage the leaves with oil. Now, who knows why we massage? Why we have to massage the leaves?
Because it tastes like
They are. Breaks, yeah, softens it. Good.
Does it do something to the lemon and nutrients?
Yep.
Yes, Angie's going to
Yeah, awesome. And Sonny's using a lemon infused one, just from a different flavour point of view. So when we look at kale, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, it's really tough. It's a really hard leaf. When we're looking at green leaves, the deeper the green, the higher the chlorophyll, the higher the nutrient content. We often tout kale as being, something that's, a bit more superfood now, but to be honest, I don't like the taste of kale, and I find it really hard to digest. So that might obviously come down to my gut microbiome. I need to start maybe having a few extra probiotics and prebiotics. But in saying that, what we can do as a cooking method and style is to actually get a bit of fat in there. And by doing so, it helps to break down the outer leaf a little bit, and then which makes your digestion a little bit easier. So your body has a little bit higher access to those nutrients, and they become more bioavailable for your body to absorb them. So otherwise you just get lots of gas and lots of wind, and it's probably a little bit uncomfortable. So that's why I add fat. The other thing is obviously fat helps to digest and absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. And when you're thinking about antioxidants, those ones are really important in terms of properties and things that are very valuable from your nutrition. But if you can't absorb it, then there's no point in eating that sort of food as well. So the pairing of it is really important.
Way of massaging your kale. I used to get leaf by leaf and usually do it, but I've soon learned. You just chuck it all in a bowl and you just massage and squeeze
And this is
go
literally
crazy.
how this recipe came about, because Sonia was like, I just made this one day and it was super quick and it took me 5 minutes. That's what people need to know.
You know what I did actually? I went to a cafe and she had this amazing kale recipe and I just loved it. I was like, oh, it's diced up really tiny, that's perfect. And I was like, I'm just going to make this at home, cafe style meal at home, and it's actually literally takes 5 minutes to do.
And you're saying that'll serve about 4, so when in my case where it's just me, how long would that last?
It's not last in the fridge for like 5 days.
Well, you don't,
6 days.
and that's it. And you might just want to do your dose for your amount for that, and then keep the rest in there.
Prepping in advance because you're lazy.
Perfect. I'd just probably to extend.
It means you're prepared.
Yeah.
Everyone preps.
I would just hold off on adding the dressing to it. So the salt and the oil, I just wouldn't put that. I'd chop it up really fine, keep it in snap-lock containers, but the dressing I'd probably do as you're about to eat it. Yep, and it'll last a little bit longer than that too. Cool.
Okay, so we've got our fat.
Who's coming? We need 3 plates because we need a mesomorph, we need an ectomorph and an endomorph. Good? Lucky
Those
we've...
that are on the athletic. Some people don't know what it means.
Sorry, somatotypes are the athletic meal plan, athletic challenge plan. Sweet. Come and dish up your plate in terms of your mesomorph plate. So we've got kale to start with. So how much kale? Is that your fist? Oh yeah, she's doing all right. Boys have 2, girls have 1. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, they get 4 meals though.
okay. We've got cranberries, we've got a blend of nuts. So what I did is I just went to Coles and I bought just a few different types of roasted nuts. So we've got pine nuts, we've got pepitas, and we have almonds. And basically I just blitz them in a food processor for like 5 seconds. And that's what we've come back with. So there are
Right.
facts.
Yep. It's a little bit finer. I like the crunch in this because some of them are still whole. So when we're talking about crunch and chewing, the more you chew, the longer it takes you to digest your meal, the longer time that you have eating slowly without distraction will mean that your receptors, your stomach receptors, have a connection with your brain to say, you know what, I'm actually full. So 20 minutes it takes for that to sort of happen, that process to happen. So the more you chew your food, the better it is. So think whole. Cool, so we've got our veggies count, we've got our fats count. How much fats are we having?
2.
Yep, so mesomorph somatotype is going to be doing 2 lots of fats. And then we've got our protein. So the protein of choice I've chosen is chicken. And I just wanted to give you guys an idea. This is how I prepped it. And this is how you should be prepping most of your meats. So I've literally just cut up the chicken breast. I always pair meats with some sort of herb or spice. I just don't know how people eat stuff on its own, and there needs to be flavour and texture, but not only that, when you're pairing it with herbs you get micro minerals, so it's really important that adding these things are not just a taste thing, it's also a mineral point of view as well. So I've got a little bit of fresh thyme, which is from my garden as well, which tastes amazing. We've got some lemon juice in there, olive oil of course, a little bit of salt and pepper, and some cut up garlic. And the reason why I've chosen garlic, once again, it's a great prebiotic food, but it also has antiviral and antibacterial properties, and when you smash it and leave it on the bench for a little bit, those properties start to activate. Pretty cool stuff. So you need to grate it and chop it up before you eat it, so don't eat it whole. Okay?
Just a question. You put oil on the chicken, oil in the salad, and then you put in fats on the plate.
Yep.
Is that too much fats?
You're not going to eat a lot of it. By the time I've cooked this and fried it off from a pan perspective, you can do it on a non-stick pan. So if I put oil in here, I probably wouldn't put it on the pan itself, but I'd use a non-stick pan in terms of grilling. So making sure with your meats, guys, you turn it up to a pretty medium to high heat when you're grilling. And also don't overcrowd the pan because then it'll get really juicy and then just kind of start to steam. So little tips and tricks and stuff like that. But that in itself can it can marinate however long you've got overnight if you need to, or pop it in the freezer, exactly like that, in the marinade.
High quality meat like the eggs, so is that all bad?
Yeah, so this one's it's actually free range. So yeah, I mean, you know how much similar to my squish test, I look at the size of the breast and go, that's looking a little bit too big for my liking. I'm pretty sure they've jacked them up with something. But I try and go for quality over quantity. And the idea with this as well is that you don't just have to use this as your protein. What other source of food have I got here that I can use as a protein? Hemp seed, yes, good. Yes, that's exactly right. So these little legume powerhouses, they will add years to your life. You can quote me on that.
More vegetarian.
Yeah.
In general.
Yes.
With like, you'd swap that for that.
Yep.
Just like
Yep.
size for size.
Yep. Yep. So do you want to do that? Do you want a spoon? What would you prefer?
I'll do chicken because it looks delicious. But like my husband is vegetarian
Yep.
and like 80% of my meals are vegetarian.
Awesome.
So.
And you know what? Take less animal product and add a little bit more vegetarian based product and you've got more fiber, you've got more access to nutrients, you've got better flavor texture, you know, so these sorts of things you don't have to just pick chicken or just pick lentils, have a bit of both.
Like that would be like a half serve and
Yep.
then just like another.
Perfect. Because using your palm, yeah, good. I need an endomorph. I've got a mesomorph, I need an endomorph.
Tinned.
Yeah, just tin. That's it. That's literally it. Yep. Just rinse them. Rinse them. Can I have another volunteer for a different body type, different somatotype? Is there anything else you need there?
Yes.
Fat. No, fats, carbs.
Oh,
Proteins.
I will.
I've just put some.
Vegetables.
So we're making a Caesar. So
Good. Protein, fats, veggies. Yep.
I like
Awesome.
that.
Flavor. Cheese. Okay.
I don't
so
eat the cheese.
we've got some nice Parmesan
Awesome.
cheese. We're going to grate it.
Build your meal as you would normally using this. Okay, so yeah, so what I've done is I've chosen a few different things. Number one, it's called the Norco Natural Cheese Company. They've just changed their name, which is why I'm looking puzzled. But these guys are once again Aussie owned, and the process in which they are doing those sorts of methods in terms of cooking and that sort of thing is really awesome. I've picked a Parmesan because it's quite bitey, so I need less of it to get a really good flavor explosion. So yes, this comes under your fat content, so I'd reduce a little bit of that to account for this. But when you take something like a peeler, you can shave this on top. Same with feta cheese. If you get it really crumbly, you can extend that flavor throughout your dish, so you only need a little bit of it. So when we're talking about cheeses, obviously we're talking it's a higher saturated fat content because it's from an animal product, and it's a little bit more concentrated, but it's not to say that you don't have to have cheese in your diet. It's choosing the right types of cheese, using them in small amounts and spreading it across your meal as well. So as you can see, really, really thin slices of this are going to go on top, and that would probably even be like a quarter of a fat serve. And it just adds a little bit of flavour and texture. You guys will get to eat them, but we just want to show everyone first. Okay, so cranberries. The other thing I'm going to put is cranberries. Now, these obviously have a little bit of sugar in them, but if you took a cranberry in its whole food form, what we're looking at is a stacked ton of antioxidants. So think about any type of deep red colour of any fruit or vegetable, and you're going to get a stacked ton of antioxidants, which is the things that, like we said, help to fight free radicals. There's a lot of good promo in this sort of stuff with tart cherry juice, you know, these sort of really deep coloured berries as being really great in terms of polyphenols. And when we look at polyphenols and anti-inflammation and injury, there's some really good research to support that as well. So yeah, so we're going to add a little bit of this in there. And like I said, it's not a whole serve of fruit or veggies or fats for that matter. I'm just doing little bits of everything. So you can see there that little bits and pieces, it all adds up, but you just need to be mindful of what your hands say, but also to have a little bit of a flavor variety within that as well. Can we have one more somatotype? Who's the last? Yeah, they're just your packet ones.
Yeah, just be careful with cranberries. You can get the right green cranberries, so make sure you read the label on the back.
Yeah.
The ones that have added sugar.
Yeah, so you want the ones with, this one's just got, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so same sort of thing, same thing, yeah, pretty much exactly the same, yeah. Cool, do we have one more somatotype, the last somatotype? So we've got a meso, we've got an endo and an ecto. Ectomorph, anyone following ectomorph? Alex?
Sure.
Let's come up, let's test you.
Is there bread involved?
Yes, there is, there is.
Yeah.
So obviously the ectomorph is a little bit more carb-centric, so they're going to be quite balanced in terms of their vegetables, plus their protein, plus their carbohydrate.
A little bit of this.
Oh no, that's just an option.
Yeah, it's a different protein option.
Am I going for the bread over there, Lance, or am I-
No, just here. Yep. So once again, croutons, quality of your croutons, okay? Toast the bread, spray it with some olive oil, toast the good bread, and then cut it up. You know, very different to deep fried croutons in that, you know, that you probably get in a normal Caesar salad at any one point.
All right.
What's your hand portion? Are you using your hands for your portioning?
Again, like calm, is it what I would usually do or what I should
It's what you should be doing. It's what you should be doing, Alex.
I go for 2 though, no?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So, can't lose that one. That one.
Good. So yeah, go for it. So if you're going to choose a protein, I would then use the lentils as a carbohydrate because it crosses 2 food groups. So if you're going to obviously have chicken in there, I'd probably have your lentils as contributing to your carb amount, which means you can take a little bit of that bread off, Alex.
Oh.
Right?
There you go.
Good.
Awesome.
Right, you got your fats in there?
Not yet.
Just over there?
Thank you.
From the lentil point of view with the carbs, like, do you just like go, yep, that's a protein portion, and then add a carb to your meal? Or
Yep. Yeah.
Like, what, just
These
set
do
it
like-
over?
It crosses over, but which one are you choosing? So your meat base is probably more protein than what the lentil is in terms of protein if we're looking at the breakdown of it. So then I'd go, okay, if I'm going to have lentils and I've already got my meat-based protein, I'll use my lentils as carb.
Have my meat first.
Then you would then use the lentils as your protein,
And
same
then
sort of
add
amount.
another
Yep. Cool. Add the finishing touches.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, so guys, what we want you to see is the difference between your different somatotype. So whether you're following an endo, an ecto, or a mesomorph plan, your meals should look different. Whether you're male and female, they should look different from a portioning perspective. Do your meals look like this at home? Good. This is what we're about. So we wanted that practical experience. Right, so you guys can eat your meals if you want to, or if you can share them around. Yeah, you can share them around, right?
One big one and we can send it around. Everyone can get
not my
it
cheese.
again.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yes, yes, now.
Go for
Do you
it.
want my cheese? Because I'm also like.
Hey, okay.
That's all right. I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay,
I'm
but
gonna
hard
push
cheese
through it.
has less lactose in it.
Cool.
Um,
I'll take one for the team.
okay. There should be fork somewhere in the kitchen, somewhere in the cupboard. Cool. So, do you want to? Should we move on?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
cool.
I'll send this around. You guys can.
Yeah.
Have
Well,
some.
I'll do that. You get started on the Brody's meal.
Oh yes. Okay. So our very last meal is like the quickest ever dinner you could possibly make that fits in with your meal plan. So this one is inspired by my husband. He is the laziest person when it comes to cooking. He cannot cook for the life. Well, no, he can cook. He just burns it all the time. So he's not very confident in the kitchen. Okay. So this is something that he will throw together that just knows that it covers all bases and it's healthy. He'll usually use this one as a pre-workout meal because he's an ectomorph. He can eat lots and lots of carbs. Whereas for those, this one could be kind of adapted as you need. So this is normally his pre-training, but we're going to do it as a dinner. Okay. So it is our quick tuna salad. So I need a bowl. So this is basically what you can get at Coles in the pre-packaged section. Okay, everything's pre-packaged, ready to go, so you don't have to worry about prep time. Okay. So what we've got some coleslaw mix. We've got some broccoli pre-cut by Anne, but you can get this already pre-packaged.
Chopped up.
You just literally chop
Easy.
it in the microwave. Okay. We've got some rice. 2 different alternatives. Which would you choose, guys? Uncle Ben's or whole grain brown rice? Yeah. You look at the back of the ingredients, right? They are.
Get
See,
someone to
on
read it.
Uncle Ben's rice, he's got only 77% rice. Okay. He does have some nice veggies in there, but he's also got flavour. What's that? You don't know. Some kind of flavour. Right, it's got sugar. And it has vegetable gum. Alright, so that's just the extras that we don't want. So definitely going to use this one. We all know how to microwave rice. Chuck it in there.
So, and the really good thing, like, well, when we're sort of looking at this, they've got some, I mean, I think it's up and coming research, don't quote me on who exactly is doing it, but cooking methods will affect the absorption. So remember how I said, you know, sometimes energy in isn't always, you know, bang on. When we look at rice, if you start to cook it like you would pasta with a little bit of oil in it, what happens then if you cook it as per normal, put a little bit of oil in the cooking process, drain it, rinse it, and then just leave it to cool down and then reheat it in the microwave, they're claiming that you can only absorb maybe 60% of the actual calories that is in that portion. So just by changing a different style in terms of your cooking method. So really cool stuff, guys. That works definitely with resistant starch and potatoes, which is what I did the last cooking demo when I boiled up some potatoes, let them cool, then put them into a salad. So the effect of that from a glycogen point of view, from a carbohydrate entering your body and your system point is much less when your resistant starch has time to cool because it expands in terms of a structure. Okay, so little different things like that you know are really handy when we're thinking about good food, but also how do we cook it as well to get the most and maximal effect. So I've got some plates up here, guys. Feel free to come up and just grab some if you want to try this salad. I've just done a bit of a mix around a little bit. Oh yeah, I just threw everything in. And this is the thing, these options are quick and easy, but they're not, it's endless as to what you can put into them. Forks, yes, no? You need some forks.
You can have your broccoli raw, or you can microwave it. Okay, super easy. Raws are obviously going to be faster, but microwave is fine. Now your oils. Oh, sorry, your tuna in oils. Who knows what a serving is in these little, in these? What's the serving size? A palm, good. But pretty much you can get 90 grams. What are these? These are 85.
Yeah, come grab, pass one back as well.
And then 2 would be a mouth serve. Okay.
And in the oil, Sonny?
I drain the oil.
Yeah, but in oil rather than spring water?
Yeah, in oil.
Tastes better, right? Olive oil. Look for the quality of the oil that it's contained in. I love it. Yeah.
I love serena.
Same.
Look, if it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine, but obviously more natural is better. Just watch out for the added sugars, but in all, like it's fine. Yeah.
A flavoured tuna is going to be better.
It's better than
Yeah.
It's better than some.
Yeah.
But you are better off just going the plain.
It depends what you're pairing it with. Like something like this got a stack ton of taste in it, you know.
Chili oil is amazing, the chili one.
Yeah, that's really good too.
With the tomato one.
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. It's awesome. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for that piece of advice, Isaac.
Well done, okay. So he would add 2 palm size of rice. Okay, I'm making a men's meal. I'm gonna drain our tuna. What have we got? In oil. Perfect.
And we wanted it to be really simple and easy, guys. So say for instance you don't have time, it's really quick to have these sort of things in your pantry just as a really quick, easy meal that's still delicious and really ticks all those boxes that we're talking about in terms of, you know, good sources of nutrition as well. So it doesn't have to be, like I said, cooked from scratch all the time. I mean, yeah, sure, if you have a packet of rice, go compare the cost. You get a whole kilo of rice for the same cost of that steamed packet. But sometimes it's about convenience, and we need it to be accessible and easy for you guys to be able to implement these sorts of things. Cool. There's a couple more salads up here, guys. I might have
Keep
to.
in mind, there is an interesting fact about the absorption of the rice. If you do get it from a packet, be careful. Sometimes you can get less nutrient absorption. If it's cooked in oil, cooled down, and reheated, but most of this rice tends to be.
Yeah.
Is there no issue, I've cooked it before a steak, like cooked it in a rice cooker, then bagged it and froze it?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent tip.
Just steam it, yeah.
Yep, perfect. If rice freezes really well. I haven't done it so much with pasta. I think it's a bit watery, but rice definitely does.
No,
Yeah.
just put it in a plastic bag and chuck it in the microwave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably from from that perspective, yes. But I mean, you're eating good food, so you might not die of just that at the moment. If you have a glass bowl, I would probably heat it in a glass bowl, just to be sure.
I've done it, like, I'll take it to work, so it's just like...
I've had people contest prep and do like even the really flimsy plastic bags and steam all their veggies in that, and I'm like, no, that does my head in, because it looks like it's melted plastic, but you know, it's apparently microwave safe. So
Even if you don't have a plastic bag, get little containers, little plastic containers.
exactly,
But
yeah.
freeze it in your plastic bag and put it in your bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
But it's
convenient.
okay to do that. Like you hook up a big batch, individual portion,
Yeah.
freeze
Yep.
it.
And then
Yep.
you can just grab that, and then after a few portions you make, then grab that, chuck it in, there's your stuff for lunch.
Exactly. Yep. Cool. Easy. Needs to be easy, right?
Done. 2 minutes.
Is that it?
That's it.
I ended up microwaving.
That's a
broccoli,
dinner.
but you could add uncooked broccoli. So guys, this would be a nice big dinner, you know, for the boys. So that's a men's serving of your dinner. Look at that.
So
big
that is
bowl.
one serving for me.
Yeah.
What?
So if you ask Jason, Jason would eat this.
He'll smash that.
Jason would eat that.
No.
No. So I haven't added any oil to this. Just yet. I've added a little bit of lemon juice, and again, you just add your oils.
Tuna.
Broccoli.
That's easy.
Yeah.
And you steamed broccoli.
Yeah, steamed broccoli. So what I'll do.
I could live on that.
I'll just pass it around.
Easy,
Maybe pass it
easy,
around
easy.
if you want to dish yourself out some.
Yeah. How are you going to do that? Spoons and cups. Cups are down there. Put them in cups, Sonny, and they can spoon it. Yep. Spoons are here.
Better to have a raw vegetable over a cooked vegetable.
Depends on the absorption. Sometimes it's better to cook things. So say for instance tomato, if you were to cook tomato it releases lycopene, but if to have it raw you wouldn't get as much lycopene in there. So some vegetables you actually do want to cook, but some you want to have raw as well. So have a mix. You know, you don't have to necessarily do one over another. In terms of the enzymes that create, you know, the absorption, it's nice to actually not have some cooked and have some raw, but yeah. Yeah, same. And people just go, why would you do that? I'm like, well, because you've always cooked it, but you can eat it raw, you know, so it's just a different way of your body to process that nutrient. Some people might find that they don't do it as well. Like say for me, like I don't like a lot of raw stuff all the time. I'll do salads, but I can't do a lot of raw veggies. It's just a personal preference. Yeah. Cool.
I'll come around to the plate.
So Sonny's just handing out your dinner meals. So like I said guys, this is a whole day's worth of food. Now we've done breakfast, lunch and dinner, but I wanted to give you guys an idea because most of you guys are following the 4 meals a day plan, but I wanted to say, okay, well if you don't want to have another physical meal, because as you can see the sizes of the meals, they should be big, but they should also be filling, and in terms of nutrition, that's exactly what you need, right? So I wanted to give you basically a deconstructed plate to have as snack options through the day. And people go, well, how do I then take my plate and have it as a snack? Well, then you need to have a protein, you need to have a veggie or a salad, and then you need to have your carbohydrate if you want to do that, and a fat. So I want to give you guys a few different novel ways of trying to think about this in a little bit different perspective. And so I'm going to start with the amazing choices of yogurts we have at the moment in terms of the higher protein yogurts on the supermarket. So has anyone noticed these? Yeah, cool. So I've got a selection of ones over here. So I've got a coconut yogurt. They're all natural, okay? But there's a couple of differences in between. And so we go into the supermarket and we go, well, what do we buy? What do we look for, you know? And how much, you know, better is this one compared to that one? So what I want to firstly do is to go, okay, well, you are after a high protein yogurt. So basically now what they're doing with yogurts is they're straining them. So by default, you end up with a concentrated form of yogurt. So these mostly have between 15 to 17 grams of protein in them. These do. There's a nut, pardon? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so basically females want to be getting about 20 grams of protein per meal and males about 40 grams, and that's based on your hand portion sizes. And that's what we're looking at in terms of maximal protein synthesis. Any more will just contribute to energy intake, but from a muscle protein synthesis point of view, you want to be getting roughly drip feeding that 20 grams of protein into every single meal that you have. So this is what's going to, you know, come pretty close. So a serving of this. Now I've gone with a plain with everything because of course when you get the fruit flavored stuff, you start to looking at adding sugars and those sorts of things in. I want you guys to get that from your natural sugars, so from your fruits. So with this, I mean the difference between these guys, so basically they're all around, like I said, roughly about 15 to 17 grams of protein. There's another one, Skyland, which is a, or Skylark is another brand. It's a little bit bigger, 180 grams in terms of a tub, but it has 20 grams of protein. So for the boys, that's probably a better option to have from a snack point of view. But I want to tell you the difference between these two. So Chobani is probably the first guy that was the new kid on the block, and then we've of course had subsequent companies try and do a version of that. So basically what we're looking for is always go a plain or an unsweetened yogurt. That's my first thing. So you have an option then to use it as a savoury or as something sweet. So Chobani, and what I love about yogurt, it's got those probiotics in there. So those live cultures, those active cultures that they put back into dairy, which for a lot of part help to digest and break down the lactose. So people often say, oh, I'm a lactose intolerant, but when you have a yogurt, you've got those probiotics, those good gut bacteria in there that start to break down that lactose for you already. So by the time you eat it, there's not a lot of sugar in yogurt itself, but people get so concerned that there's so much sugar in yogurt, even when it's unsweetened. It's not. It's a really good health food if we're thinking about gut health. And from a recovery point of view, eggs on par with dairy for being a really great source of good essential amino acids. Okay, so good protein, good carbohydrate, post-training is a wonderful way to put it in. So we've got this. So Chobani, if you want to compare different things, we've got Danone, the YoPro, and I want you guys to tell like a different texture. I want you to get a feel for what it tastes like. I'm going to put some on our other little snack boats over here. And then we've got Rokeby Farms, which is obviously where my film York came from, and so I just love these guys. The reason and the point of difference is it's once again it's from Gippsland, so it's a little bit on home turf, but the difference between this and these guys is the calcium content. So for someone, you know, that we think about, if you're trying to reduce dairy, it's a pretty easy way of getting calcium. So for most females, if I think about females and what their needs are, and males as well, they're roughly about the same, maybe a little bit less, but 1,000 milligrams a day. So say for instance a yogurt, you know, 1 cup of milk will get you that. I wanted to do a bit of a milk hierarchy, but we might not have time for that. So when you're looking at a lot of your almond milks compared to just normal standard cow's milk, what you lose out on is calcium unless they fortify it. So you really need to be looking at getting a cup about 300 milligrams of calcium. Now, if my daily needs are 1,000 milligrams, I'm going to be needing to get that source from somewhere else as well throughout the day. So really important in terms of bone mineral health. You know, muscle speaks to bone. Bone is an active tissue. It's not just a rod. It doesn't just sit there. It needs constant nutrition. So we're talking about bone health. Vitamin D and calcium is really important, and resistance training, which you guys have covered. So this is really important. So when I looked at, we actually even emailed Rokeby Farms because we were like, are you really sure that this is right? So the calcium content in here is per serve, which is 170 grams of this entire pack is 507 milligrams. You know, compared to your normal yogurts, 300 milligrams, compared to Chobani, 204 milligrams, over double. Okay, so if you've got a calcium need or you're not eating a lot of calcium containing foods, I would choose something like this as a product over something else. Okay, but like I said, from a protein point of view, they're quite equal in that instance, and from a carbohydrate point of view, they're quite equal as well. So yeah, so I want to give you guys a bit of a difference. I think Chobani is a little bit more fluid if I think about the texture of that. The Danone YoPro is a little bit thicker. Sometimes when don't have a great appetite, it's really hard to get this down. It's quite dense, but like I said, it's equally, from a nutrition point of view, on par with each other. What's their calcium content? 176, so there you go, lowest one there. And then of course, like I said, my Rokeby Farms is the winner, but very distinct taste. It's a quarked style of yogurt. It's a bit more like cottage cheese. Okay, so you can use it, as I said, as a savoury or as a sweet. And then of course we've got our coconut yogurt, which is the other one that comes into the mix. And I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a variation because people often just go, oh, I'll just substitute it for coconut yogurts because I'm dairy free. I don't want to do dairy. And if we have a look at the nutrition content of this in comparison to my gold standard over here. So I'm looking at per serve, so this is 170 grams, so it's equal amount in terms of per serve. I'm getting 734 kilojoules versus 474 kilojoules. Double the energy for the same volume. So when you think about a weight loss perspective, trying to get less calories, not a great option. When I'm looking at calcium, they haven't even listed it, which means doesn't have any. I'm looking at the fat content, which obviously helps with bumping up the calories at 16.5 grams. I'm looking at the fat content of here being 1.7. I'm looking at the protein content of here being 1.7 grams as opposed to 17 grams. Much, much different nutrient profile. This does not equal this. They are not a good substitute. And if you're going to have this, I would use it as you would cream. Not a health food. Okay?
Dessert.
Cool. We're all happy with that. Now, I want you guys to taste them. Have a taste of everything. So I'm going to pop a little bit. I'm going to use this instead of my sour cream on top of my beautiful salmon boats. So my salmon, once again, omega-3. Okay, when we're looking at anti-inflammatory, olive oil trumps everything, but fish or marine-based sources of fish are the best in terms of getting a omega-3 content of fats, which are the good fats, remember?
So what's on your lettuce leaf there to make focus?
Yeah, great question. I have just a little gem lettuce. Yeah, thanks, Sonny. I'm going to try a different, I want to try some different ones over on this side as well.
I'll do this one, this one.
So I've got a lettuce cup. I've got a slice using my peeler. Get a good peeler, it's worth its weight in gold. I've got like cucumber ribbon. I've got a little bit of a slither of red onion, which, you know, from a flavour enhancing point of view is really lovely, but also a prebiotic. And then I've got smoked salmon on top of that. And that's it. That is literally it. So as a snack option, super duper easy. You know, so you think about that deconstructed plate. I've got my protein coming from my high protein yogurt and my salmon, good omega-3s, great gut bacteria, good probiotics, you know, and avocado, sorry, there's my fats in there as well, okay? So that's kind of like a complete meal if you were to have it as a snack option, but you're deconstructing that plate to make sure it's easy enough for you guys to do. So take one and pass it on. They should be like kind of finger food-ish. But yeah.
Napkins up here as well.
So, and I want you guys to, you know, come up and grab a spoon and have a taste, have a try of maybe the different style of yogurts to get a feel for what the texture's like. And like I said, I think this one's very thick, and I'm putting this one on this plate in comparison to the other two. But yeah, as I said, can either go savoury or sweet. So if I were to then go, okay, I don't, where's my berries? Did you use all of them? Oh. Right. She's too
I got him out
quick.
already.
Too organised. I want you guys to, yeah, sort of come up. If you've got a plate, like come up, take a dollop of it, and then berries. So when I'm thinking about, you know, antioxidant content, obviously, there's no difference between, a goji berry or an acai berry or just a normal strawberry or something like that. You know, they're all equally just as good. So from a convenience point of view and economy point of view, frozen berries are amazing. I always put frozen berries with yogurt. So what you get out of that, takes longer to eat because they're frozen. So it slows down the eating process. Once again, re-engaging your receptors in your stomach with that brain to see that you're full. Okay, can I have a few of those cups, please? I'm just gonna, just give me the whole stash. I'll make some little yogurt cups. So another great option as a snack, I've got a higher protein yogurt, thank you. I've got a low calorie fruit, so if you're concerned you don't want to have too much carbohydrate, if it's not post-training, I'd always pair it with berries or passion fruit. Passion fruit's another one. Rock melon is another really great low calorie fruit. So yeah, I might get Sonny. Yeah, actually that would be great. Just maybe do like a little bit of berries and some, like a dollop of yogurt. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Do you want a bigger spoon?
Yes, please.
Yeah, your bigger spoon. Oh, that might work. They smell good, that's the thing. Okay, so another variation of that, new on the market. So Mavis is a really great, question? Yeah. How big is your hand? You know, so yeah, so exactly. So everyone's needs are different. So if you're deconstructing that fourth meal into a snack and you're trying to put that in somewhere through the day, then your salmon portion, which would be your protein, would be the size of your hand. So your veggies are the size of your fist. So, you know, have a few little lettuce cups in there. Obviously your cucumbers in the veggie count as well. And then your fats are your thumb size of avocado. So do that. Yeah, absolutely. And build them up. You can do that, Alex, but I'll be doing your skin folds, so you might not look it. What do we think, guys? Is it good? Like, do you like the taste of it? Good combo? We're gonna put some berries in there now as well. So, where'd my apple go? Oh, here.
We should have been photos of all our meals.
I know. Oh, well, did we? No, we didn't. Okay, at some point. And so the last thing I want to note, there's two things. I'm going to go with a protein bar in a second. Another great example. So these guys have just come out with this one when we're talking about getting protein from a snack. This is probably a better source if you're using it as a snack option. Slicing an apple up really fine and putting a little slither of that on there is delicious. So we might get Sonny to do that, or almond butter. Great, awesome. Or you could just have some nuts and a piece of fruit. Fat content, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't have to be fancy.
Do you want me to use up the yogurt?
Yeah, whatever, just a dollop.
Keeping it in line so they know what they're eating.
Yeah, like, Oh yeah, that's a good option. Yeah, I'll just do some of the coconut. Or what? Get them both. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so if you want to do some thin slices of that, there's some couple of taste testers there. Okay, so while the girls are busy doing that, I want to make my last point. And for a lot of us, we think, okay, well, we need to get protein in. A good snack would be something like picking up a protein bar, right? Cool. I need 2 volunteers. Can I go this way? Carol, am I going to give that to you? You don't have to do anything too fancy. Grant, I'm going to give that to you because you enjoy that. Yep. Okay, so when we look at protein bars, often people think, oh, they're the great sort of thing. They're a health food. They've got heaps of protein in them. I look at it from an ingredient point of view. So when you're looking at something that's quite processed, they'll have lots of ingredients in them. So I would like our 2 volunteers. Maybe Carol, you can go first. I want you to read the ingredients list on this protein bar. At the back, yep. You might have to lift it up a little bit, like the flap up.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, the actual
the ingredients.
Ingredients.
Okay, sorry. Whey, which is a protein blend. Another whey protein blend. Another whey protein blend.
So it's obviously high in whey protein, right?
Calcium, calcinate.
Yep, it's a bit of a supplement there.
Peanut butter. Lots of extracts, salt. God, it's just millions.
Right?
Yeah.
Some stuff we can't even pronounce. And Grant, what does yours say in terms of ingredients?
I can't even read half of these things.
Awesome. So it's a good test. If you can't read the ingredients in something, it's pretty bloody processed. Okay? So what I wanted to do, now it doesn't match in terms of protein content, like this one's a little bit higher protein than these two, but I've done what I call my raw slices. So when I'm thinking about mimicking that sort of texture and I guess, option from a snack point of view, I will always use whole ingredients first. And so a lot of these products have a lot of refined processed sources of ingredients, and they'll call themselves whole food. And I'm like, well, no, it's not actually whole food. So what I wanted to do was create something that was literally whole food. So it has no processed coconut oil, it's got no processed brown rice syrup, it's got no honey, no maltodextrin, no fructose, none of that sort of stuff. It's just really good, healthy foods from your pantry, you know? So things that I wanted you guys to put in your pantry, that's what I've created with this. And I want to get you guys to try it because texturally it'll actually feel and taste like what you're getting out of these sort of processed bars, which cost a fortune anyway. This one, like I said, is a little bit more higher in protein because I've used the raw Amazonia Paleo Caramel Coconut one, just because it's delicious in the blend of what I was making. If you guys want the recipe, that's on the iPerformance Nutrition website, so go and have a look there. Then I've done this one, which was from our original Appetizer Zucchini website as well, so 2 brand affiliate companies, and I've made this, I've called it my Christmas slice. So basically I went and did it, and then I ran out of powdered ginger, so I used fresh ginger. How cool is that? So it's got a bit of a kick to it for those that like that. This one's more of a caramel flavour, but I wanted you guys to know that all I've used in here is nuts, fresh dates, some sort of spice, maybe it was nutmeg or allspice I used with this one, fresh ginger. This one I used the peanut butter that Sonny's using, so just raw ground up nuts. Coconut, whole coconut, not coconut oil. It's got the fibre, it's got all the extra goodies in that. And I use extra virgin olive oil in this one. So once again, for my properties of, you know, being a wonderful health food. So give them a whirl, see how you go. Take one, pass it on, whatever you get with. But that's a real whole food slice compared to a processed bar that you get in the supermarket. Pardon? Nuts, fresh ginger, Majil dates, cocoa powder, olive oil, no gluten, should be right. You're gonna kill me. And if you guys want to come and have the berries, taste the berries and the different yogurts.
They're lined up with what it is if they want to know.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes, perfect.
Thanks, Lisa.
I've been doing that for years with almond butter.
So good. Great. Just the more variety in your nuts, the better. The better it is. Go for it. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's on your website.
iPerformance Nutrition website. Yep. Just loaded it. Yep.
I don't eat variety on a food day.
Yep. Yep.
If I was to eat that, because that wouldn't take me much to eat, it's giving me a serving of stuff.
I would, yeah.
I went to high school, so my breakfast was early, my lunch was early.
Yep.
And usually by about 4 o'clock I'm hungry.
That's when you start to put that in.
So how much is that?
Yeah. So what I've done on the website, I've made it equivalent to how much a protein bar would give you in terms of energy. So the whole batch, if you cut it into 20 slices, would give you a snack serving size of 176 calories, which is a proper snack serve. So it would favour, it probably favours a little bit more fats on the fat side of things. But if you're following an endomorph plan, ticks a box. It's probably the best thing for you to have in terms of little less on the carbohydrate and more fat.
So I then do go on the natural dinner.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yep. And it gives you that sweet texture without being overtly sweet, but it's all natural whole foods, nothing processed. Your body has to still digest it. Yep. Cool, eh?
Do you know how they get peanut flour?
Yes, so they grind it up, they dehydrate it, take some of the fat, remove the fat, centrifuge it, take the fat out, and then put the peanuts back in. It's the powder form. Cool? I was going to say, throw in the bin. Who wants? On the iPerformance Nutrition website, just loaded it this week. Right? Cool. Happy days. Are we all pumped? We all full? Good food. And nutrition. Good nutrition, good food. It pays to enjoy the food that you're eating. When we talked about your eating experience, 80% is from smell. So if you don't get in the kitchen, start cooking, you are definitely missing out. So the whole satisfaction in eating needs to come from your smell sense first. So unless you're cooking, you're not going to get that flavor explosion and that satiety from the meal itself. So yeah, guys, this is really, as I said, simple, easy, should be quick, doesn't need to be fancy, but with the right combination of your fats, your proteins, your veggies, your salad, your fruits, all your good healthy options now at the supermarket. Yeah, you guys should be set and prepped for the last 4 weeks. So we've got some tips on the back of the sheet that Sonny gave, and that's just bulk cooking ideas and stuff like that. Everything that we sort of kind of spoken about.
I don't prep as much as that. I don't cut up my veggies. I don't freeze. Does that take away the quality of the? No. From a convenience point, if you did that and you were more likely to eat more of it, it would enhance your health. Maybe for a few microminerals that get for. Keep all the skin on, because from a fibre perspective, definitely wash it well, but definitely keep the skin on. Yeah, keep the skin on sweet potato. Scrub them. Skin on, everything. Put skin on everything. Yes, except for chicken. Sorry. Maybe at Christmas. Do we have any questions, guys? So hopefully you got some really good practical tips to take away. Doesn't have to be fancy.
So it's probably been reiterated before, but like with the salmons and your fattier meats, we added fats into that as well, and that's okay. It's not having too many fats and things like that.
Marginal.
Smoke?
Yeah.
Does that matter?
Probably the processing of it isn't too great when we're thinking. It depends what angle you're looking at with most things. So for most people, if you came to me and you had a history of cancer or you've got cancer in your family, then I would say yes, the charring, the smoking, the process of that sort of cooking isn't conducive to a decreasing your cancer risk. But if you look at it from a health marker, a health point of view, the omega-3 content, so we're actually recommended to have about 500 milligrams of omega-3s in our diet per day. And so if I looked at that packet, a serving, so 150 grams serving would get me that and possibly a little bit more. So essentially what we're looking from an anti-inflammatory point of view is to have 3 serves of salmon or omega-3 containing foods, which is probably pretty much your fish, and your good eggs as well, so your eggs, your free range eggs, 3 times a week, and then having maybe a supplement on top of it if you have rheumatoid arthritis. So different things like that you can think about. And if we all ate salmon 3 times a week, we would completely deplete our entire ocean of fish. So it's not practical for us to do that. So it's getting it in there in a smaller amount, but also then using your plant-based sources of omega-3, so like your walnuts and your chia seeds and your flax seeds, so adding all those things into the mix gives you a really good nutrient profile from that perspective. But like I said, the difference between maybe smoking, if you don't have a cancer history or a background, you're not looking at it from that angle, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? No. Yeah.
But from the fundamentals, we're not really looking at our body types. So to what extent should we eat the mesophore and the more if we know?
Depends on your performance. I think most of the time, like I said, the athletic challenge, I went next level because I assumed that their training was higher. So that's when I guess carbohydrates play a little bit more of a role, in which case we want to be filtering that in a little bit more frequently. But if you just generally feel like you're lacking in a little bit of energy and you naturally eat a little bit more carbohydrate, I'd probably back off a little bit of the fats and maybe have 2 of those 4 meals a little bit more carbohydrate based rather than just the one post-training. Yeah, just to getting a feel for that. But like I said, if you're picking good food, it doesn't matter. Like half the time, if we did that, if we just followed fundamentals, 80% of us, that's what our diet should be based on, irrespective of tinkering around a little bit with higher carb, lower fat, that sort of stuff. Still good food, you know? So yeah, don't stress about it too much. And if you like it, eat it, because that's what's likely to give you good results.
That's right.
Cool. Pardon? Cheap. Cheap. No. So, that was yes, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes there was a big sweep of like contamination that came through with some of the brands with the berries because where they were from. So when I look at foods, try and get home soil. Oh, where that's from. But to be fair, I don't even know where this is from. Produced in Chile, there you go. So because it's Boost Company, doesn't necessarily mean it's Australian-based produce. But yeah, I just literally got it from a money perspective.
But I have an I have an unknown anaphylaxis, and I've been through the mill of trying to find out what it is, and they said to me it comes down to, it could even be the pesticide that an apple was sprayed with.
There you go.
So that's why I wondered if there was a reason you went for those over. Yeah, I have a lot of issues.
I mean, you'd probably
awful lot of issues with
But the other thing is as well is like, even if you choose organic, it's not to say that they don't use an organic pesticide. Like, you know what I mean? So
I carry
sometimes,
opinions, so I mean, if it happens, it happens. You just live with it, or you don't live with it.
Right. That's right.
Did you say you used one of the protein powders in that?
I did. I used the raw Amazonia.
Sorry guys, just a reminder, we'll officially wrap it up. So thank you all for coming. We do have a 15% off the protein and hemp seed today if that's something you need in your pantry. Yep, come and taste some more yogurts. We hope you all learned a lot. Any questions, feel free just to post in the forum. We will attempt to get the recipes up next week as well if you want to keep your eyes up for those.
Yeah, and to know that you don't have to have a recipe to make a meal. Like we didn't have recipes for this. We just kind of went, let's just put this and this. Yeah, that works. Yeah, and a lot of the times if you subscribe to a few different like food channels, even like the Healthy Food Guide, like they've got really great examples. You can always make a meal fit your needs based on the style of meal that you're looking at. So it helps to sort of subscribe to those sort of things. I get them in my inbox and go, oh, that looks good. I'll just make a few amendments and then that suits me as a meal. So. Yeah. Options are endless.
Those free books.
Yes, we pick that up too.
They pick up, we call them trends, but they're delicious as well. But if you're out there, even list the calorie content and like the macros and stuff in there. So that's a really good way of like just looking and then working out how can you make it work for you.
One more question, huh? What are you doing with all that leftover?
She squished it all.
What do we do with it? I think I might freeze it. And you know what? Say for instance, I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm just saying from a hierarchy perspective, that's got obviously less fiber and less grains. But as a pre-training workout carb option, fantastic. You know, with a bit of honey. Add a bit of honey to it. I'll keep it in the freezer for just you, Alex.
Thank you.
Cool. Pleasure. Have a good weekend.